Met with the media, had a couple of interesting things to say, especially about player availability. Penn State's really hurting at linebacker, but there's some news on that front, both good and bad. And one player is still not ready, another player he expects back, and also Penn State's wideout core should get a lift from the return of one player who hasn't played yet. I don't think he might have played early in the Kent State game, but that's been it.
Absolutely. Jason Kabinda, they hoped he'd be back this week, but the Penn State middle linebacker, it looks like he's going to be out another week. And some sort of setback. James Franklin didn't say what, but he also didn't mention Brandon Bell, so I expect him out another week. Brandon Smith, though, left the game against Minnesota about midway through the second half. He is expected to be back. No word about Jake Cooper. Saeed Blacknall, the receiver you mentioned, will be back in action after sitting out the last couple of games.
Yeah, I think, like you said, James doesn't talk about it. It looked to me like Brandon Smith got a little bit shaken up, maybe dinged up a little bit with the head. But, again, he expects him to be ready. I thought it was interesting. He did feel good about the way Manning Bowen played in a pinch at middle linebacker. They were pretty desperate there at the end of the game, really scrambling on defense. The defense got some stops, but at one point I think they had Manning in the middle. I think Cole Farmer was on the outside too with Cam Brown, but they were able to get off the field and win the game. It remains to be seen what Kabinda, his effect will be on the pass game. And there's also some news on another receiver. You and I both saw Brandon Polk in warm-ups. He did not play. Against Minnesota, I get a lot of questions from fans about Polk. He was a fairly dynamic player, Greg, last year in limited availability, limited touches, excuse me. He is a quick player, undersized, much like DeAndre Tompkins. But James said that he is hurt.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to, when they'll get him back this year. It's hard to say. I mean, it's interesting. He was a guy that ran the play that everyone hated last year. But the thing was, when it worked, it worked. I mean, he was a guy that could run it. I thought it was interesting that a couple weeks ago, James Franklin made pretty clear that they used him so much because the way they ran the offense, it sort of dictated that they use him. And now that maybe it isn't the case so much because you have to take somebody off the field and slow things down. So we'll see about him, but he's definitely banged up somehow.
Yeah. One other thing James said, he said he really thought Tyler Davis should have been the special teams player of the week. It's hard to argue with him. The guy is 17 for 17 lifetime at Penn State, and they really needed him against Minnesota. My feeling is they're going to need him against Maryland too.